Welcome back to another episode on Coffee with Craner. Today I have Noah Capannelli here. He does freelancing and he's a video advertiser. So we're happy to have him on the show here. He's worked with companies in Windsor such as Remax, Windsor Chevrolet and Cadillac, the Windsor Police Force, Windsor Essex Compassion Care Community, the Hospice Windsor. So he's had a lot of experience with video advertising. And I think that he's going to bring some value to today's conversation and to the people watching about what is freelancing. What are the hardships of it and how do we overcome that? So thanks for joining me today, Noah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Lyndon.
So when did you start your journey as a freelancer?
Okay, so I would say that leisurely I began probably around first year university. I started making my own independent short films. And that was the first time that I actually made kind of my own video for a client. And then I began actually prospecting them and garnering clients myself fully independently for money, I'd say about 2 to 3 years ago. And then about maybe a year and a half ago is when I started making work that I was actually proud enough of to like really post online.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I've seen you've done a lot of work for different bands. I mean, I think I saw a Windsor Police video shoot you did for a commercial or some type of testimonial for them. So you're doing pretty cool things in our community. I think you've worked with some artists for the Coming Home Music Festival as well. So that's incredible. And you're only 22 and you're working with some big names, and glad to have you.
Well, I'm not 19 and I'm not the host of my own podcast, so I can't be doing that well.
Oh, well, thanks for joining. I forgot to ask a question. So we're drinking coffee here today. If you had to pick between Tim Hortons and McDonald's coffee, what would you pick?
Oh my God, I really don't want to disappoint with this answer, but my friend, I actually don't drink coffee at all.
Okay.
My answer, so I have no experience whatsoever. Though. Sorry?
Tim Hortons or McDonald's?
Tim Hortons, just for the donuts.
Just for the donuts? Do you drink like any teas or anything like that?
No, sir, just water.
Just keep it simple, eh?
And alcohol, but you know.
Awesome. Well, thanks for answering that. And I think you got a Batman cup on.
I do.
You're rocking one of these. So Sweet. If anyone is watching, you can actually purchase these, and $25, and all the proceeds are going to the Amherstburg Food and Fellowship Mission. So hopefully people watching can purchase a cup and support. So our next question here is, what do you enjoy most about your freelance work?
Okay, well, I think there's a lot to enjoy about it. I think it's cool that freelancing allows you to kind of build your skill set, kind of expand your craft no matter what industry you're in. You know, you may have already kind of had the skill going in, or you actually acquired it and now you're just developing it more. And obviously that is extremely helpful. And then I think freelancing allows you to discover new career opportunities. It might put you in certain situations or connect you with certain people that have an influence on you. And then it's kind of introduce you to a whole new horizon of opportunities that you may not have thought of before, if that makes sense. And honestly, freelancing has brought me a lot of cool experiences, like working for the Windsor Police. I can't say much about the video, unfortunately, or I can't release it at least, but a few months ago, I got to record a bomb detonation at the training branch here in Windsor, which I don't think is a very common or normalistic thing that people get to be surrounded by.
Yeah.
So yeah, some really cool experiences and being on stage at CHMF, stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. And comparing to a regular employment opportunity, you're working for a business and you're on their payroll. What are some benefits of being freelancer, like solo? You're solo business owner pretty much.
Sure. Well, probably the biggest thing is that essentially as a freelancer, you are building your own brand. So you don't really have anyone overseeing you. You don't have any supervision. I think that most of us were in school for 14 and 22 years of our life on average. And we're taught to speak when spoken to. You're taught to do what you're told. You're told to do it. You're told what to do in school. When you have a part-time job, you're told what to do by your managers. Once you become a freelancer, everything is kind of flipped on its back and you are actually in control. You know, let's say you're a sales associate at a retail job, and then Karen comes in asking to speak to a manager. You get to appoint that responsibility on your manager. When you're a freelancer, you are the manager. You are the one that the Karen wants to speak to, right? So I think that teaches you a lot of valuable things. You know, allows you to really build your own personality in terms of becoming an organized person, becoming a responsible person, understanding that if you don't meet your own deadlines, you don't get 5 marks deducted by your teacher. You might be tarnishing that relationship that you have with your client. Mm-hmm. I think that making your own hours is really cool. So I know a lot of creatives per se their persona is one to step really late, right? As a freelancer, if you're editing or you're building a product, whatever it may be, you can do that any hours that you want, odd hours. And then as a freelancer, you can pretty much make as much money as you want as well, right? So you aren't capped, you aren't restricted by whatever salary you may have. The more work you put in, the more money you're gonna make, right? It's as simple as that, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then I love the independence of it, right? And then finally, I think that you can, for the most part, you can have a lot of creative control over it. If you're designing a product or you design things for others, you can, depending on whether or not your client has like a strict vision on what they want, you have a lot of creative control over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You really get to enact your own vision for things. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. And I want to toss another question here because I think it's interesting. How did you get your first like client? How did that start?
My first client was from a referral. So I was actually making fun little videos with my friend. He developed an athletic clothing brand. And we were shooting videos at his gym. And it was his uncle who actually owned a consignment business in Florida, who saw kind of the fun little videos we were making for no profit. And he flew me out to Florida to make a commercial for his business. So I didn't necessarily garner him. He kind of prospected me in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
But the first client that I actually pitched myself to would have been, I started putting myself out there actually on Kijiji for wedding videography. I was making my own ads. You know, if you want the best wedding film in Windsor, come to Noah Capannelli, which isn't true, by the way. I'm not a very good wedding videographer at all.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of rumors where weddings, there's a lot of liability, especially if you're taking photos at the wedding. There's a lot of liability for that. You have to be
100%.
perfect in how they want it, right? So
I'll just put this out there. My respect goes to any videographer who works in weddings. It's unfortunately just not for me. I like having creative control over my projects. When you're at a wedding, you're pretty much, your hands are tied behind your back and you just got to go with the flow. It's a lot of pressure. So
yeah,
it's for some guys and I respect it, but unfortunately it's not my thing.
So we have a question here that came up in the comments. It says, do you believe you want to follow the same path as being a freelancer for the next 10 to 20 years?
Can we hold that for the end? Because that kind of ties into the final question.
Yeah. Yes, we'll get back to you on that, Ali. We'll tie into the next question here. What are the first steps someone should take to become a freelancer?
Okay. The first step for sure, I think, is figuring out what you're good at, right? Figure out what you're good at. And then if you don't know what you're good at, find out what interests you and then get good at that. So I think the biggest thing, find out what you're good at. If you're interested in something, kind of learn the skill. And the all-encompassing kind of truth of all that is that you have to learn. Learn. I always say, learn, study. You know, there's a very prominent kind of saying in sales, and it's that you have to be the expert. I think that's true in pretty much any industry. Any client wants to feel that sense of comfort that whoever they hired is the expert in that industry. If your client didn't need you for what they hired you for, then they wouldn't have hired you, right? So they want an expert for it. So always be learning. I think that anybody in life, no matter what industry you're in, whether even you're freelancing or not, you should learn some basic marketing skills. I think that in pretty much any conversation with anyone, you're inadvertently, you're segmenting, targeting, positioning, whether you know it or not. I think that early on, when I was a freelancer, at least early on, I'd rely on my intuition to kind of tell me what to do. I should build this product this way. I should edit this video this way because that's what feels right. And then as you get older and you start owning your craft and building it, you learn that there are actually like strategic ways that should be building these products. And so it's that transition from being young and amateurish and just using intuition to actually consciously thinking, if I do this way, it will impact your audience this way, right? Strategically looking at things. And that all comes from learning your craft. So always stay humble. Make sure that you never feel like you've already plateaued. There's always more to learn, right? Okay. Offering free work, of course. So in the beginning, when you're building your portfolio, my first 3 music videos that I did were completely for free. I felt that it was wrong and inappropriate of me to ask a client to take money from them when I've never done that job before. So I think I definitely think doing free work is a great way to not only humble yourself, but also build your portfolio. And then once you have that portfolio, whether those videos are good or not, it doesn't matter, because from there, you're always going to get better, right?
Yeah, I really agree with that, man. Like, doing free work is probably the best thing that you can do when you're starting up. You're doing free work and you're gaining the experience. Experience is number one.
For sure.
Experience over the money, for sure. So thanks for touching on that. That's a strong point.
Of course. Yeah.
So Michael Capannelli, I don't know if there's any relation.
That's my father.
we can come back to his question at the end if that's okay with you.
Yeah. I don't even see the question, but whatever it is, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So so next question here. What are some struggles that you have being a freelancer and how have you overcome it?
Okay. So the number one, I think this impacts any entrepreneur, any freelancer. I think the biggest thing is kind of the self-motivation thing. So like I said before, 14 and 22 years in school, you always have people that are above you telling you what to do, constantly motivating you. If your parents around you, as a freelancer, you are your own boss. You have to stay motivated yourself, right? It's really easy to kind of fall into like a bit of a slumber sometimes, or lose that motivation, lose that creative passion, and you don't have anyone behind you kind of knocking you into gear. You have to do that yourself. Something that I've noticed in myself is that sometimes when I'm on a set, for example, maybe in between takes, I'm getting tired, or sometimes I find myself getting lazy and I want to kind of like grab a seat. And I've adopted the mindset that I always want to be 100% in. From the moment my client sees me to the moment I leave, I'm 100% into it. I want every single client of mine that I have to say, Noah is so on the ball. Noah is so on all the time. I think that's really important, you know? Yeah, I guess it can just be hard to maintain that energy. It certainly is for me, since I don't drink coffee, to maintain that energy, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's important. I think it's important for any careers is you have to do what you love first off, and make sure you're passionate about it. Because if you're doing something you don't love, you're not going to be happy. Your work's going to be poor. So that's an incredible point there.
for sure. And then the next one is the fact that unfortunately, there's a pro and con of this, but there really is an increased competition. You know, as the internet grows, we have 12-year-old kids now who are learning advanced video editing skills from TikTok, right? And the barriers to entry in pretty much any industry, any creative endeavor, they're slowly mitigating because anybody can just go on YouTube and pick up one of the thousands of tutorials that they have on pretty much anything. It's a lot easier for people to get into these industries and get really good at these positions than before. So, you know, there are so many more competitors today than there were yesterday, and it's only going to get more oversaturated. That's what I think. So I think it's getting really hard to kind of stand out above the rest. You really do have to be the expert. You have to be constantly progressing. That's how I feel. And maybe that's just the cynicism in me. That's kind of how I view the world a bit, but it's just true. There is absolutely an increased competition in any industry because of technology.
So with that competition, how do you stand out?
That's hard. Like, again, learn, be the expert. And then I think building and maintaining relationships is really, really important. So I think the most work I've ever gotten overall has been from referrals. And if you have a client that you've worked with previously and you did really good work for them, and you've worked really hard to maintain that relationship, you're really good to them. Even if they find someone that they think is more talented, I think they would still want to refer you over that other person. You know what I mean? Because your talent or your skill or the product you've delivered can only go so far if someone doesn't like you or if someone didn't like the way that you treated them. So building and maintaining relationships is paramount if you want to stand out. That's what I think.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really good point. So for someone looking to begin freelance work, what would be some advice that you could give them? I know we talked a bit about it, but there's definitely some more advice.
Yeah, well, the number one thing, honestly, the first, the second, the third, the fourth thing I would say is just learn. Just keep learning, keep expanding your craft. I think it's important to kill your ego. Don't ever think that you got to that point where you don't need to pick up any more books, or you don't need to read any more tutorials, or you don't need to look at your mentor's work anymore because you've already gotten to that level. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think you should completely eliminate that mindset if anyone has it. There's always more to learn, always more to progress. Just keep learning. And then don't be afraid either. It's awkward putting yourself out there. It's really awkward. It's awkward because when you're putting yourself out there, or maybe online or in person, you're basically saying, I have skills that you don't have, so you should hire me, right? It's a little awkward. So I just think, obviously you're not going to say it that way, but just don't be afraid to put yourself out there, you know?
And develop you develop your own brand and how you approach those clients should stand out from how the average Joe would approach that client, right? Standing out is important. And I think you touched on that really well.
For sure.
So with
Thank
your
you.
freelance, sorry?
Sorry, no, nothing, man. Go ahead.
So with your freelancing business right now, what would be some future goals you have?
To be completely honest, I've been working on a startup kind of in the advertising realm for a while that I'm really looking forward to kind of put out there. And I'm going to be transitioning away from freelancing, and I'm getting my business license soon. I think freelancing is, for some people, the entrepreneurial path and kind of starting your own business is a great path. For some people, freelancing is a great path. They both have their pros and cons. I'd really recommend kind of finding out which one works more for you. At the end of the day, I think freelancing is an important stepping stone in order to get to the next step. So I think that if you're thinking about starting your own business or anything like that, you want to create like a team, you want to build something, I think you should freelance first. Put yourself out there, personally garner your first client, and it will teach you so much.
Yeah,
not just about business. Sorry, go ahead.
That's so true. Like, I was about to say that, like, the stepping stone is freelancing, seeing if people actually like your product or like what service you provide. Then if there's a high interest, then jump into a business. Why do a business, get all the business license and not know if anyone's going to like your product? So freelancing is probably a great way to test the waters.
Yeah. Now I don't want to sound overly romantic here, but it's just true. Failure is a good thing. It really is. Like, if you start a business or if you just immediately start freelancing and you don't fail right off the bat, and you don't have even a little bit of failure, that's really rare. I don't even think that exists, to be honest. So don't let that get you down. Everybody's going to fail. All right.
Awesome. So Noah, we have a bunch of questions here in the comments. Everyone is enjoying this conversation. The first one is here. It says, do you believe you want to follow the same path as a freelancer for the next 10 to 20 years?
The way I've seen it, that's a good question, actually. The way I've seen it, I've thought about a bunch of different career paths throughout my life. And I've always thought that no matter what I end up doing, I feel like I will always have this passion for filmmaking on the side. And I always freelance in one way or another.
Okay.
Even if it ends up being a very small thing, a very small part of my life, I will always end up doing it.
Okay, awesome. What makes you stand out above everyone else, and why should I hire you?
All right, it's you a full sales pitch on Coffee with Crainer. No, I think that that's a hard question. Let's just say that I pour a lot, not only into my product, but also into my relationships. Yeah, I guess that's all I'm at liberty to say right now. I really believe that business is about relationships.
Yeah.
More of it than maybe sometimes physically what you can offer.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you're probably one of the highly skilled videographers in Windsor, Essex?
I don't think that I have the authority, I guess, to say that. I think that question is more reserved for an all-seeing eye. You know what I mean? I obviously have a bias, but let's just say that in any consultation that I have with a client, the first thing I do, first and foremost, it's not about the product that they want. It's about developing our relationship together.
Well, no, even if you don't think you're the best, this guy is the best. I swear to God, he's one of the best videographers. Go check out his work. He has a YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel called?
It's just my name, Noah Capannelli.
Just Noah. Yeah, check him out on YouTube. He recently launched a short film. It's got like crazy amount of views already, and it's pretty cool. He did it for his last project in university. Check that out. But Noah, don't put yourself down. You're probably one of the best videographers I know, and that's why I asked you to join today. So,
I appreciate it.
Next question we hear is, hey brother, what has been your favorite project you've worked on and why? Proud of you, from all the love from BC.
Went to BC, didn't even invite me. Come on, Mark. My favorite project that I've done. Okay. Honestly, probably when I made the homepage video for WEC, so the Windsor Essex Compassion Care Community, or working with hospice. I think that when you're working towards something that you genuinely really care about, or you know that it has a good cause behind it, you're going to pour a lot more into it. So I know that I said that I put 100% into everything, but when your heart is really into it, I think that 110% goes into it, if you know what I mean. I was really proud of that video. And Christy Nelson, shout out to you. That was my boss when I was working for hospice. I could just see kind of in her eyes how much it meant to her that we created a really nice video. And it just kind of felt good to help kind of increase the digital footprint of that brand. It's a brand that I'm really proud of.
Awesome. So we have a question here. What is your fee structure per hour per job?
I wish that my fee structure could stay the same for pretty much everybody. So right now in my consultations, I pretty much have 3 packages, and they're always kind of changing. After each consultation, after each client I work with, I keep troubleshooting to find what works best. So it all depends, right? There's a million different factors that go into creating a video or a product or design for somebody. You know what I mean? So no 2 prices I think will ever look the same.
Yeah. So what does it depend on then?
Everything, how long it'll take to film, what physical factors it'll depend on, whether we need to hire actors, whether it's like a fiction or a non-fiction project. Pretty much the more amount of assets that I'm going to have, the more the price is going to be, right?
What's the longest you've spent on producing a film?
The longest I've spent. I've been in pre-production for one of my real estate companies for about 4 months now.
Wow,
which is just pretty long for just pre-production. Then you have your main principal photography, then your post-production. Yeah, so that's really long for me actually.
Yeah, that's it's definitely one that will fluctuate in price for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question here. Would you be able to be successful if you were not living at home with your parents? What do you suggest for someone living on their own to succeed as well?
That's a great question. Honestly, my parents have been such a big supporter for me. I'm not necessarily going to say that I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for them, but they definitely, no, I'm going to say that. I definitely would not be where I am if they weren't for me. They helped me buy my very first camera that really got me to where, that really kind of kick-started my career. I think having, obviously, your parents backing you up is a massive asset. I feel like it's hard for me to speak on what it's like not to have that, because I don't want to sound bratty or anything or pretend like I know what it's like not to have that support. But I guess just, you know how they say like the top 5 people you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. If you don't have your parents with you, try and surround yourself with good people that'll keep you motivated. You know, I think that if I went away for school and I was living in a frat house, I'd have a much different kind of motivation than if I were living with a bunch of Mark Zuckerbergs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, find people that motivate you, right?
For sure. Try and surround yourself by some Mark Zuckerbergs, I guess.
I guess so. Hope that answers your question. So we have a next question. It says, what is your biggest life goal?
Okay, I have an unrealistic life goal, and then I have a realistic life goal. My unrealistic life goal is to direct a Batman film in Hollywood. That's always been my number one. It will always be my number one. I always say to myself, kind of as a gag, but I feel like I'm not even really joking, I don't even like filmmaking. I just like the idea of filming a Batman movie. And everything I'm doing is just trying to get me there. And then my more realistic life goal, honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, I just want to live on the water somewhere with my dogs, be happy, and make enough money to be able to comfortably wake up in the morning, go on a nice little canoe trip with my dogs.
Perfect. That's easy as that. Paul Leach says, who was your mentor or role model during your journey?
Actually, it was so I never realized I was actually good at filmmaking, or not necessarily good, but above average, you could say, until it was Mr. Robinson, my grade 11 communication technology teacher in high school, who basically was like, Noah, your group just made that? And I was like, what do you mean? Are you saying it's good? He was like, yeah, it's good. And I was like, I guess this is something that I could be good at. So, and Mr. Robinson has been there all the way through. And then my parents, obviously.
Yeah, perfect. And then Jaron says here, which is true, you can make it happen, put your mind to it and work hard. You're a talented individual. So it seems like everyone watching really, really aspires you. So
Jaron's going to be on a TEDx one day, and I'll be front row watching that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, Noah. I really appreciate your time, and you helped a lot of people. We had a lot of questions come through. So I appreciate that. If anyone has any questions for Noah after this live stream, he's open to having you send him a message. And if you need a videographer, he's your man. So make sure to hit him up. It's contact at noahcapannelli.com, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Awesome.
And
Okay.
that's my website as well, just noahcapannelli.com.
Yes, check him out. Check out all the projects he's done in Windsor, Essex. Is incredible. Check out his Instagram page. There's so many different videos that he's done for bands, pretty much anything, you name it. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. So thanks so much, Noah. I hope you stay safe.
Thanks, Dad.
I hope you stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the Coffee with Craner show, and don't forget to purchase your mug. $25 going to the Amherstburg Food and Fellowship Mission. He's got his Batman one. I have to give him a Coffee with Craner one soon.
I'll have to buy one because I want to support the cause.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Noah. I appreciate it. I hope this helped everyone. If you have any questions for Noah, hit him up, and we'll see you next time on the Coffee with Craner show.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Bye now.